Hello everyone. Today we are going to look another natural food products, and that's maple syrup. What is this exactly? Well, maple syrup looks rather like clear honey, but it's not made by bees. It's produced from the plant fluid or sap inside the maple tree, and thus makes maple syrup a very natural product. Maple syrup is a thick, golden, sweet-tasting liquid that can be bought into bottles or jars and poured onto food such as waffles and ice cream or used in the baking of cakes and pastries. It contains no preservative or added ingredients, and it provides a healthy alternative to refined sugar. Let's just talk a bit about the maple tree itself, which is where maple syrup comes from. So, there are many species of maple tree, and they will grow without fertilizer in area where there are plenty of moisture in the soil. However, they will only do this if another important criterion is fulfilled, which is that they must have full or particle sun exposure during the day and very cool nights. And I will talk more about that in a minute. There are only certain parts of the world that provide all these conditions. One is Canada, and by that I mean all parts of Canada, and the other is the northeastern state of North America. In these areas, the climate suits the trees perfectly. In fact, Canada produces over 2/3 of the world maple syrup, which is why the 5-point maple leaf is a Canadian symbol and has features on the flag since 1964. So, how did maple syrup production begin? Well, long before Europeans settled in this part of the world, the indigenous communities had started producing maple sugar. They bored holes in the trunks of maple trees and used containers made of tree bark to collect the liquid sap as it's poured out. As they were unable to keep the liquid for any length of time, they didn't have storage facilities in those days. They boiled the liquid by placing pieces of rock that had become scorching hot from the sun into the sap. They did this until it turned into the sugar, and they were then able to use this to sweeten the food and drinks. Since that time, improvements have been made to the process, but it has changed very little overall. So, let's look at the production of maple syrup today. Clearly, the maple forests are a valuable resource in many Canadian and North American communities. The trees have to be well looked after. They cannot be used to make syrup until the trunks reach a diameter of around 25 centimeters. This can take anything up to 40 years. As I've already mentioned, maple trees need the right condition to grow and also produce sap. Why is it? Well, what happened is that during a cold night, the tree absorbs water from the soil and thus rises through the tree vascular system. But then, in the warmer daytime, the change in temperature causes the water to be pushed back to the bottom of the tree. This continual movement up and down leads to the formation of the sap needed for maple syrup production. When the tree is ready, it can be tapped, and this involves drilling a small hole into the trunk and inserting a tube into that end in a bucket. The trees can often take several taps through the worker take care not to cause any damage to the healthy growth of the tree itself. The sap that comes out of the tree consists of 98% water and 2% sugar and other nutrients. It has to be boiled so that much of that water evaporates, and this process has taken immediately using what are called evaporators. These are basically extremely large pans. The sap is poured into these, a fire is built, and the pans are then heated until the sap point. As it does this, the water evaporates, the syrup begins to form. The evaporation process creates a large quantity of steam, and the syrup becomes thicker and denser. And at just the right moment, when the syrup is thick enough to be called maple syrup, the worker removes it from the heat. After this process, something called sugar sand has to be filtered out as it spilled during the boiling and gives the syrup a cloudy appearance and slightly gritty taste. Once this has been done, the syrup is ready to be packed so that it can be used for a whole variety of products. It takes 40 liters of syrup to produce 1 liter of soft syrup, so you can get an idea of how much is needed. So that's the basic process in places like Quebec, where